The Genesis giants called Nephilim, Nephil is singular, Nephilim plural, a hybrid species that inhabited the earth. The Nephilim and fallen angels were real according to countless ancient texts. They were giants, they had advanced technology, they even had space flight, and they even had the ability to change frequencies and disappear into interdimensional levels. The Nephilim were a race of giants who came to dominate before the Great Flood. These mysterious beings are referred to in ancient texts as giants. If you look at the various videos I uploaded the past few days, we ascertained that the Atlanteans were giants. Thoth from the Emerald Tablets tells us, and I have a playlist of those Emerald Tablets videos you can see. There's a lot of information on their technology and also their selfishness, their haughtiness, and how they misused humans and were a danger to the earth. And from what I've read, the sinking of Atlantis did not happen in one event. It was a series of events, and I'll do a video on that, having to do with a couple of thousand, every 2,000 or 3,000 years. 3 or 4 floods that finally wiped off Atlantis. And so a lot of Atlanteans had the chance to establish cities everywhere else on Earth. And from what Thoth tells us, the first thing they did was build pyramids. And of course they took with them their high technology. They were very pale. One archaeologist that has field trips at Huma Huma and various Peru areas with advanced technology construction tells us that they're still here and they live for thousands of years. They live underground in their luxurious cities. And they come out at twilight, before sunrise and just before sunset. And that people, the locals, are aware that they should not ever go near these places around twilight because they come out and they're ferocious. So they still have their advanced technology. And as Manly P. Hall tells us, he believes that these Atlanteans are the ones that we see with their UFOs zipping in and out from other dimensions and disappearing in front of our eyes. But going to this, oh yes, and Thoth also became one of the first deities of ancient Egypt, and he was the person who was responsible for building the Giza Plateau, which has, he says, a tremendous, luxurious, multi-level city underneath, and that he has he has concealed his spaceship under a sphinx there. Now, we don't know if there's one sphinx that we know of now that's been covered up to about 100 years ago, was covered up to the neck with sand. But there are those who say that there's a second pyramid there, which is still covered with sand and has not yet been excavated. So we don't know which sphinx Thoth was talking about, but there have been in the past essays and talks of the Sphinx being very long and very flat on its back, and that it could be from old papyruses of Egypt showing landings of spacecraft, of aircraft on the back of the Sphinx for some reason. But anyway, let's go to this. Many ancient texts discussing these fallen angels, and we even have giant skeletons that have been found in every state of the United States, and especially 125 events in Ohio with hundreds of giant skeletons there. Now, and we also have the mounds, the ancient native burial mounds that look like the ancient Greek burial mounds of the heroes, for example, Achilles and Orestes, and all those heroes of the Trojan War have their mounds. It looks just like the Cahokia mounds of Ohio. Now, let's go here. The Nephilim and the fallen angels were real according to countless ancient texts and legends. Now, the Nephilim were a race of giants who came to dominate before the Great Flood, and these mysterious beings are referred to in ancient texts as giants, Nephilim, descendants from the fallen angels. And we know that, for example, in Greek mythology, for example, Hermes Trismegistus was giving his knowledge of medicine to the god Asclepius, he was I think the grandson of Zeus. Zeus, the the Olympian god of the ancient Greek mythology. So, and they were giants as well. Now, going back to this, the mysterious beings referred to in ancient texts as giants descended from the fallen angels, and they were the product of the illicit relations between fallen angels and human women before the flood and Noah's Ark. The word Nephilim is the plural of Nephil. Nephil means giant in Aramaic, in Hebrew. The word Nephilim is the untranslated pronunciation of untranslated Hebrew Nephilim, fallen, feller, a tyrant or a bully, giant. In some English translations, the Nephilim are referred to as giants. Interestingly, in the Greek Septuagint, Nephilim was used to describe giants. However, the name Nephilim is also used frequently to describe the race of giants who inhabited Canaan, the Philistines, that is, and we know that they came from ancient Crete, the Minoan civilization, and the Old Testament says that the Philistines are Cretans. Now, and by the way, Minoan DNA has been found in in Native American tribes, or especially around the Great Lakes area. So, the name Nephilim is also used when describing the race of giants who inhabited Canaan at the time of the Israelite conquest, according to Numbers 13:33. But there is considerable confusion surrounding these mysterious beings, which, according to ancient texts, were real and inhabited Earth in the distant past. And looking at these ancient texts, we'll notice that in the Hebrew Bible, the word Nephilim occurs on 2 occasions this year. I know that there's 3, but anyway. Both times in the Torah, the first one being Genesis 6:1-4, just before the story of Noah's Ark. The second being in Numbers 13:32-33, when spies sent to Canaan reported seeing fearsome giants, and we all know that. Even the grapes were huge. They needed men to transport one little bunch of grapes on a pole. They were so heavy and big. Now, Genesis 6 says, the Nephilim were in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. The same were the mighty men that were of old, the men of renown. Renown meaning, they had knowledge of various things and technology, etc. Numbers 13:33 says, and there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who came of the Nephilim. And we were in our sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. Can you imagine how huge these people were? Now, they were also the people that constructed the megalithic structures. Now, looking at the definition of Nephilim, it's hard to understand the nature of these beings, since Genesis 6:4 makes it hard to understand and differentiate whether these beings are in fact the sons of God, quote unquote, or their offspring who are the mighty men of old, men of renown. It's perhaps obvious to interpret the Nephilim as how they are described, a hybrid race between 2 distinct beings. And this leads us to one of the most important and controversial questions when talking about the Nephilim. Were they a hybrid extraterrestrial species? Well, according to the above facts, the answer is a rotund yes. Now, most authors will firmly agree that the Nephilim were in fact a hybrid race between the fallen angels, called the B'nai Ha-Elohim, sons of God, in Hebrew, meaning that these beings were not native to earth, but were in fact heavenly beings, descendants of the fallen angels. Interestingly, in many ancient religious texts, the Nephilim are referred to as giants or titans, while many other ancient texts have failed to explain what these beings were. Now, the Greek mythology is full of titans in that they had a war with humans. It's called Gigantomachia. The Machia means battle. Gigandas means giant, the battle of the giants. Now, in the Bible, it clearly states that, and is used as a traditional interpretation, that heavenly beings mated with humans an extremely controversial claim rejected by many. Now let's remember what the Apostle St. Paul told us in the New Testament. He says, be careful of these entities because they're shapeshifters. They even, the evil one even appeared to Eve to tempt her and to sway her, and he was successful. He appeared to her as an angel of light, as an angel of God. And she was mesmerized by his appearance, and she started listening to what he was saying. Okay, so that's why we have to test the spirits. Because, no matter how beautiful a person looks in front of us, or an angel of God, an angel of light, he may be the evil one looking like that. Okay, so we have to be careful and not be afraid to test the spirits. Now, going back to this, in the Book of Enoch, the following texts are used to describe the Nephilim. Quote, it happened after the sons of men had multiplied in those days, the daughters were born to them, elegant and beautiful. And when the angels, the sons of heaven, beheld them, they became enamored of them, saying to each other, come, let us select for ourselves wives from the progeny of men, and let us beget children. Then their leader, Samiaza, said to them, I fear that you may perhaps be indisposed to the performance of this enterprise, and that I alone shall suffer for so grievous a crime. But they answered him and said, we all swear, and bind ourselves by mutual execrations, that we will not change our intention, but execute our projected undertaking. Then they swore all together, and all bound themselves by mutual execrations. Their whole number was 200, who descended upon Ardis, which is the top of Mount Armon. That mountain, therefore, was called Armon, or Hermon, because they had sworn upon it and bound themselves by mutual execrations. Mount Armon or Mount Hermon derives its name from the Hebrew word harem, a curse. Now, these are the names of their chiefs. Samiaza, who was their leader, Eureka, Baramil, Akibil, Tamil, Ramuil, Danel, Azkael, Sarakina, Knial, Asael, Armers, Batral, Anan, Zavebe, Samsavel, Ertael, Turel, Yomyael, Araziel. These were the prefects of the 200 angels, and remainder were all with them. And they took wives, each choosing for himself whom they began to approach, and with whom they cohabited, teaching them sorcery, incantations, and the dividing of roots and trees, basically all the things that humans should not have known. And this is exactly what the Atlanteans were, wiped off the face of the earth for. Okay, so obviously the Atlanteans must have been Nephilim, because of their advanced technology and their use of sorcery. As it says here, they taught them sorcery, incantations, and all this. Now, and the women conceived and brought forth giants, those whose stature was each 300 cubits. 1 cubit is from our fingertips to our elbow. So 300 cubits is like, if that's like half a foot, 300 would have been, no, that's about over a foot, about a foot and a half. 300 cubits is what? 500 feet tall? Okay? A cubit is from our fingertips to our elbow. When they turned themselves against men in order to devour them, so they were also cannibals, and began to injure birds, beasts, reptiles, and fish, to eat their flesh one after another, and to drink their blood, their flesh one after another, or one another's flesh. R.H. Charles notes that this phrase may refer to the destruction of one class of giants by another. Then the earth reproved the unrighteous. Moreover, Azaziel taught men to make swords, knives, shields, breastplates, the fabrication of mirrors, and the workmanship of bracelets and ornaments, the use of paint, the beautifying of the eyebrows, the use of stones of every valuable and select kind, and all sorts of dyes, so that the world became altered. Impiety increased, fornication multiplied, and they transgressed and corrupted all their ways. Amazarach taught all the sorcerers and dividers of roots. Armers taught the solution of sorcery. Bar Kayal taught the observers of the stars. Akibael taught signs. Tamiel taught astronomy. And Azaradel taught the motion of the moon. And men, being destroyed, cried out, and their voice reached to heaven. Enoch 6-7. Okay? Now, from all of the above mentioned, we can understand that while there are numerous documents making reference to the Nephilim, it's clear that these beings were not natives to Earth, but were in fact a hybrid species, only half human in nature. We can go on and on about this, but let's just finish here and for the time being, and we'll go into I'll try and do that today, the tomb of Achilles that was visited by Alexander the Great, and his huge shield of 150 pounds, and it needed 3 strong men to lift it, and they lifted it with very great difficulty. Let's remember that the shield usually covered the head to the knee, or the groin area of the warrior that held it. So that's how huge that thing was. And we were told from Plato texts that he was a giant. Achilles was a giant. He was, let's remember, the son of a goddess. And so was Orestes, the son of Agamemnon, was also a giant. So a lot of these Trojan War heroes were in fact giants. And we're going to take a look at his tomb and what happened with Alexander the Great and Alexander the Great's generals. They all went to visit these, they were in an area of a hill. These mounds were in an area, the same area. They were all buried in the same area. And they look very much like the burial mounds of North America. What a coincidence. Well, we know that the pale-faced giants of Minoan descent that gave their DNA to the Native Americans in the Great Lakes area, that also mined over 500 tons of copper, 500,000 tons of copper, recently found empty mines, and the mining equipment and tools have been found there. And we found that also that the ancient Minoans, the ancient Greeks, were having trade routes all the way down there. They were going up from the British Isles and catching the Gulf Stream current, traveling at 4 to 5 miles an hour, which is not at all bad. And from there going to Iceland, and then from there going to Greenland, and then hopping over to Labrador. And they were already there that way in the continent of North America, in Canada. And of course, they settled in the beautiful area of the Great Lakes, plenty of clean water and rivers and game and mining, and and they all around the St. Lawrence Seaway as well. So we can go on forever with this, but please leave your comments. Thank you. Please subscribe, share, and ring the bell for updated videos. Thank you. This is on Bended Reality from Ancient Code. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Capotal, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.